Well, hello and good day, vinyl community. How you doing? It's Matt, and I'm back again for another video. And I think, as you can tell from the title of this one, probably a lot of you are going, "Whoa, what's up with this, Matt? What's this all about? Is this clickbait, or what are you doing here?" No, folks, I got a pretty good video and a pretty good story to tell today, so I'm hoping you'll sit with me. It may take a little while, but I want to go through this story with you. I think you'll enjoy it, and I think if you're a Beatle fan, you'll really appreciate it and enjoy the story. Now, my prologue here, before I get into the meat of this video, is you've got to be sitting out there, many of you going, "Matt, what is this all about? How can you have a story like this, or be about to tell a story like this, and have been sitting on it for a year and a half since you've been in the vinyl community, the music community, the Beatles community, whatever we want to call it?" And I understand that. Yes, it's been about a year and a half I've been in the vinyl community. I joined January or February of 2017. Any of you that know me out there, people that know me personally that watch these, or people that have met me, a few times in the VC, I've met a few of you, or people that know me through emailing or just messaging here, going back and forth with the comments. I think if you get a good sense of who I am, you'll know that I'm a pretty humble person. That's just my nature, the way I was raised. You've met my father in my previous 4 videos or so you get to kind of get a taste of what he's all about. And I kind of have a lot of his characteristics and a lot of his personality. That is, I'm pretty humble, I'm pretty easygoing. I'm not the kind of person that likes to toot my own horn or, rush into the room and be the center of attention, or be the type of person who's got to brag all the time and talk over people. And when they're telling their story about something, I got to one-up them. Or, I'm not like that. I know a lot of people like that in my life, and they annoy me to no end. I can't stand people like that, to be honest with you. People that like to just toot their own horn all the time and feel so wonderful about themselves, but never care about how anyone else is doing. That's not me. And any of you know me know I'm not like that. So, yeah, we all have great stories here in the VC. Many of us have told them before. I've told a few stories. We all have a past. We all have things we've done, people we've met, celebrities we've met, music icons we've met, autographs we've gotten, special collectibles we've gotten. And they're all great stories, and no one person is more important or any less important than the next person. We're all important here. We're all important in the planet, for that matter. So anyway, I do have a good story here to tell you. It goes back many, many years ago, till 1992, so you're talking 26 years now. And I'm still flabbergasted that's been 26 years. But anyway, here I am 26 years later, and I'm telling you the story. Again, just to go back, so that's why I waited, folks. I didn't want to come into the VC a year and a half ago and just rush in and think, hey, I'm somebody. Look at I met somebody pretty important here. I didn't want to do that. I didn't think it was right. I didn't think it was appropriate. I thought, spend some time in the VC, get to know some people, listen to stories, tell a few stories, show some collectibles, see some collectibles. And I just didn't feel comfortable at first doing it. And a few people out there who I've had contact with know about this story, and I respect that they've respected my decision not to just, tell people that I met this person. But I just felt now's the time to share it, to have a good little story to tell. Summer of 2018. Who knows how much, how longer I'll be around. You never know, right? Things change, technology changes and whatnot. But I thought, let me get this one story out there for now. And I do have other stories, by the way. I do have other stories, and someday I will like to share them with you, and I will. But I thought this would be the first one. This would be the one to start with. A pretty good story. All right, as we all know, Time Takes Time came out in 1992. Here's the CD I bought back then, 1992. Grabbed it right away. I was so excited that, for me, I know some of you in Canada, Old Wave came out around 84, Ringo's Old Wave album. I don't remember that being readily available in the United States at the time, in the early to mid 80s then. So I didn't really get Old Wave at the time. I think I have a copy of it around here somewhere now. But back then, to me, Stop and Smell the Roses in 1981 was Ringo's last album for me at that time, coming into the early 90s. I didn't have Old Wave. I maybe have heard about it, but I didn't get it. So Stop and Smell the Roses was it. So it was kind of a big deal for me, to me anyway, at the time. This was like an 11-year gap between a new studio album from Ringo Starr. 81, now here it is 1992, and he's coming out with the Time Takes Time album. And I'm really getting into it, and I'm reading a lot of stuff about this album, and I've got the CD playing, by the way, kind of low in the background so I don't get flagged, but here's the inside. I was reading a lot of stuff about it. I was getting into it. I heard about all the special guests. He was going to have people helping him write songs from the Posies and from Jellyfish and all these cool bands that I loved. You know, some of my favorite power pop bands right there, Posies, Jellyfish. So I was excited about this album and the different people he was having work on it with him and write with him. And I think a couple of members of the Knack sang background on this album here. And I'm sorry I didn't do all my research, because it's not the point of this video today, but there's a lot of cool people that guested on this album. So I was very excited about it when it was coming out in the earlier to mid part of 1992. And I ran right out and grabbed it. And I also ran out, and I'll put that down for now, I grabbed the singles as they came out accordingly from it on CD. I don't have the vinyl. The Weight of the World single, okay, which had Don't Be Cruel on it, produced by Jeff Lynne, which was a little bonus. I thought that was cool that they put Don't Be Cruel on there. And then a little later I had to get an import of Don't Go Where the Road Don't Go CD single. All right, and this one was cool because it had a couple of extra songs on it as well. Everybody Wins and Everybody Wins and Don't Know a Thing About Love was on the album. So just Everybody Wins, but it was a good song, Everybody Wins. So I really love this album. When this came out, and I only recently got the vinyl within the last year or so being in the vinyl community. I only had the CD up until recently, but I got this Friday Music release not too long ago, and I'm so happy to have it, and I love it. So when this album came out, I was so into it. I got into it big time, and then Ringo announced his second all-star band tour. He had done the first big one in 1989. It was huge, mega crowds. I mean, I went to see him in '89 at the same place, which I'm going to tell you about today. It was in a place in Massachusetts, and it was one of those, you know, like outdoor, like seating lawn areas. Then you had the under the roof area, like the large theater type place, and it held like 16 to 18,000 people if the lawn was filled, and he filled it in 1989. I mean, that place was filled, and great show. So he's coming back in 1992. I've got the album. I love it. Time Takes Time, and it's become one of my favorite Ringo albums of all time. Definitely in my top 3 or so. And so when he announced that he was touring and he was coming back to this same shed, they call them sheds, place again that held like 16 to 18,000, I ran right out, got in line. I forget back in those days if you had to wait in line overnight or whatever. But anyway, I got great seats. I was in the center, like 15 rows back. I mean, I had beautiful seats. I got 2 tickets. And I was so excited about it that I was going to be seeing Ringo on June 22nd, 1992. I was 30 years old, going to be 31 fairly soon. But at the time, I was 30 years old. I had a 5-year-old son, and I had a son who was 2 years old at the time. So a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, and you know, didn't live too far from the place where it was going to be. Wasn't sure who I was going to bring yet, but anyway, regardless, I had a boss at work, a place where I worked, and I can't go into personal things like that. I don't want to share that. But where I worked, I had a boss who I was very friendly with. He liked me. I was a good worker. He just liked the way I, you know, was loyal and worked hard for him. And he happened, let me preface this by saying, you know, wherever you go, whether it's in school or work or when you make friends of that, isn't it funny how people always somehow figure out that you're a Beatle maniac? I don't know what it is. It must be the way we present ourselves or talk about things or music, but everywhere I go, people seem to figure out that, hey, Matt, he's a Beatle maniac. He's a Beatle freak. You know, he loves the Beatles, among other music, but he's a Beatle nut. So everyone at work knew I was a Beatle fan. They knew Matt was the Beatle fan. He was the big Beatle freak. And my boss knew this too. Now, my boss happened to be fairly friendly with the general manager of this facility where I went to see Ringo play live. Okay, they were fairly good friends. So when Ringo was coming in 1992, June 22nd, I know I repeat myself, I'm sorry, I'm getting excited here. Anyway, when Ringo was coming, my boss came up to me one day and says, oh, you're going to see Ringo and all that, he's coming in a few weeks or whatever. And I said, oh, absolutely, I got 2 tickets and blah, 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 I'm going to be going. I'm all excited about it. He goes, hey, I know so-and-so, general manager over there, yeah, I should put in a word for you, and maybe you can get you backstage or something. I said, yeah, okay, yeah, right. Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, I'd love that, you know. And he said, no, 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 I'll talk to him. I'll talk to so-and-so. I don't want to say his name here. He says, but I know him. I'll just mention you're a good kid. You know, at the time, he was like 20-something years older than me. I'm 30. You're a good kid, and you know, hey, you love the Beatles and all that. So I'm going to mention it to him and see what happens. Yeah, okay, thanks. Appreciate it. You know, that was pretty much my answer. Well, good fortune, call it good luck. I call it luck and good fortune. That's all. I'm nobody special. I didn't, nobody, you know, there was no reason. I'm not a VIP or anything like that. I'm just me, you know. My boss tells me about a week or two later that, oh, I talked to so-and-so and he said that he could try to help you, but he can't guarantee anything. Really? I mean, I'm just like happy he even said that. He says, what he wants you to do is, the night of the show, first he said, who's going with you? And let me backstory a little bit. I don't know why at the time, my wife for some reason couldn't go. I forget what it was. She couldn't go to the show that night. I had my best Beatle buddy at the time, but I don't know what it was, why he couldn't go. He was either working or he was out of town at the time. I forget, but he couldn't go to the show. He could not commit to it. So desperation upon desperation, I guess I could have asked other people. I just got this wild idea. Why don't I let one of my sons experience this? You know, why don't, you know, we don't know how much longer, I didn't know how many tours Ringo would do at the time. He's done so many since. So I said, why don't I bring my young son, my oldest son, my 5-year-old, you know, the 2-year-old a little too young, but the 5-year-old, I said, he likes the Beatles. I've gotten him into the Beatles and Ringo and playing music for him and Elvis and on and on. He loves that kind of stuff, and he loves Ringo. He loves to play on his toy drums and whatnot. I says, I'm going to bring him with me. And I just got that wild idea. I'm taking my son. That's it. He's going to be the one to get the ticket and go with me. So I told my boss that. I said, yeah, I'm going to go with my young son. I think it'll be very nice. Bring him. It'll be a fun night for me and him. He'll get to see Ringo. He loves the Beatles. He loves Ringo. So he said, okay, no problem. I'll let so-and-so know at the general manager there, and I'll get more information for you. Well, he came back with some more information right before the show, like a day or two before. He said, okay, go to such and such gate. Once you get in the venue, and you and your son give your tickets and get into the venue, go to such and such gate. There's going to be security there at that gate. It leads down to the back little, like a walkway down through a little garden into the backstage area where the backstage canteen is, and the food and the cafeteria and all the VIP stuff is down there below the stage in this little central garden area. So go to this entry gate to that area. There's going to be security guards there. Tell them who you are, or ask for this name of this general manager. I forget what it was. It was either say who you are. I think it was ask for the general manager. So I did that. Sure enough, a few minutes later, he comes up to this gate. He greets me. He had met me once or twice before at my workplace. And he said, hi, oh, how are you? And here's your son and all that stuff. Nice to meet you, Matt, and everything. You know, well, nice to see you, Matt. He says, you know, I can't guarantee anything. He says, I'm going to give you these 2 backstage passes. You will get you down into this garden area, into the back area where the tents are and the canteen is, and the goodies and the food. And oh, by the way, all the food's free. All the food and drinks are free. Just help yourself. There's a big long buffet and all this. Just help yourself. I said, oh, okay. He says, I'll get you down in there and get you settled at a table in this little canteen area backstage. He says, but then he says, you're kind of on your own. He says, I really can't go from there. You know, if Ringo happens to come out or something and you see him, it might be your opportunity to try to say hello or something. I said, no, I was so appreciative of what my boss and now this gentleman had done for me up to this point. I was just flabbergasted that I was even being allowed, because never in my life have I ever been allowed to be in a backstage area at a major concert like this. I was just so grateful. I said, geez, thank you so much, just even taking me through this gate here. I'm grateful, let alone, you know, to sit backstage and hope Ringo comes out. So anyway, he led us down to a table, and it was just me and my son alone at the table. My son's he was a cute little kid. You'll see a picture of him in a moment here. But he was such a cute little kid, and he's there just having a ball. He's thinking like this is like something you do all the time. You know, when you're 5 years old, you don't know that this is not something the average schmuck like me gets to do every day. You know, that you just go backstage and meet whoever you want. He told me that years later too. He said, Dad, I just always at the time thought, oh, that's just something you do. If you want to go backstage and meet Ringo or Paul or Elvis, whatever, you just go back and do it. He says it's just funny. He laughs about it now because at the time he was just playing at the table, and I think I got him some chicken nuggets and a drink or something, and I had a soda, and I'm sitting there, and I had a couple of gifts in case I did bump into Ringo. I think my son might have done a drawing for Ringo, and I think I had a couple of t-shirts and items like Earth Day stuff. Earth Day had happened around that time, and some animal rights stuff I might have had. I forget now, but I had a little baggie of goodies to give to Ringo if I met him. And so we're sitting there, and I had this nice little bag, and the goodies were kind of colorful in the picture and stuff like that. And we're sitting there, and at one point, Zach Starkey comes out. But don't forget, there's a lot of people in this canteen area. Zach Starkey comes out, and he's talking to some representatives from some drum company. I remember that, overhearing some of the conversation. He was a couple of tables over. He came out of the dressing room area to the canteen, talking about drum stuff with this representatives of a company. I remember saying, oh, there's Zach Starkey. But, you know, I didn't want to run over there like a fanboy or something like, Zach, you know. I just kind of kept my cool and sat there with my son and, you know, eating our little snacks. So Zach talks to them for a little while, then he has to leave. This is pre-show, so they got to get ready for the show and whatnot. And then, believe it or not, and I didn't make my move then, about 10 minutes later, Ringo did come out. He made an appearance. He came out of the hallway area down to where the private dressing rooms were. He came out into the canteen area where all the people were sitting, and he greeted a few people. A couple of people talked to him. It's like almost like he came out to get something, maybe a piece of fruit or something that he wanted to get back to his dressing room. He wasn't out there long, and I just didn't feel it was the right opportunity or the right moment to approach him, because he was just coming out. He was trying to grab something off where the food and drinks were, and then he was going to head back to his dressing room. So I said, well, just leave him alone. Be cool. Don't be fanboy rushing up there and, you know, I want to be doing that. So I just sat there and just was in awe of the fact, even if that was the most I got, that there was Ringo 10, 15 feet away from me grabbing an apple or something. So I was, you know, just happy with that. But anyway, I'm sitting there, and then Ringo leaves, goes back to the dressing room area. 10 more minutes go by, and I see a guy with a mustache off to the side. He's kind of eyeing me and my son sitting there. And he's like looking at us, and he's, you know, hanging around that and looking back at us. I'm seeing, oh, the guy looks kind of important. I didn't know who he was, but I said, so he's looking at me, he's looking at my bag, and he sees I have a camera. He sees my son with me, 5 years old, you know, kneeling up on his chair on the table, and he approaches us. He goes, well, what's in the bag there? I go, oh, I just got some presents for Ringo, you know, if I happen to see him. I got a couple of goodies for him I'd like to give him. I thought he might like them. He goes, oh, okay. He goes, wait here a minute. I'll be right back for you. And he leaves. I go, what? You'll be back for me? What does that mean? Back? You gonna throw me out? You gonna kick me? I don't belong here? I'm just sitting there like, oh, okay, I'll sit here. You're gonna come back for me. Okay. 5 minutes later, the same gentleman comes back. He waves to me and my son. He goes, hey, come with me. And I'm a nervous wreck, folks. I can't even remember the guy's name. I'm sure I introduced myself, and I'm sure he told me his first name. I was just a nervous wreck. You got to picture it. I'm just like shaking inside, but I think I was pretty cool outside. I was very, you know, I said to myself, just be professional. Don't act like a nut job. Just be normal. Don't act mental, you know, just be normal. So I can't remember the guy's name, but he called me down the hall, and my son. So I grabbed my son, holding his hand. I got the presents, got my camera, and he leads us down the side private hallway to the dressing room area. I'm not kidding. As we're walking down this long hall, about 30 feet long, guess who walks by me coming the other way? Barbara Bach. But I couldn't stop. I couldn't like grab her or shake her hand or anything, because I'm being led down the hall into the dressing room areas now, and I'm not about to blow the chance of meeting Ringo to stop and talk to Barbara Bach, albeit she's very beautiful at the time, and she's still beautiful. I just kind of let her walk by, and she was about 5'7" or so. I'm about 6'1", 6'2". I've shrunk a little. I'm about 6'1.5" or so. She was about 5'7", and she walked by me. A fairly tall woman, very attractive, as you all know. She walked by me and just gave me a little nod, and I gave her a little nod, and that was it. We kept going down this hall. So we go all the way down the hall, again, under the stage, backstage area, under the stage. We go to the last door on the right. It's cracked open about a foot, and you can hear bustling going on in the room. So the security guy or tour manager, I don't know what he was, tour guide or tour manager, I don't know, security, he knocks on the door, okay? He does a little knock, knock, knock on the door, and as he swings open the door, I heard Ringo's voice say, "Come in." I can't imitate Ringo. "Come in." And as he's pushing the door open a little bit, I can see Ringo fiddling around with his luggage, or like his stuff. You could tell it's his stuff, like drumsticks and other stuff, and some of his personal clothing. And he's like, they're on like these little lift tables, and he's like fiddling around, and he's bent over to Ringo. And he's looking in the thing and fiddling around with something. And as the guy swings open the door, that was my first image of Ringo. He's fiddling in his luggage and something. And so the gentleman says, "Oh," I forget what he even called him. I'm sure, was it Ringo or something else, or Mr. Starr? I forget. But he acknowledged Ringo, and Ringo turned around and acknowledged us and said, "Oh, hello, come in." Now, I'm freaking out, folks, because there's no one else there. It's not like there was 20 people in this big dressing room. Ringo's dressing room had like a table with fruit on it, and I just, from my memory, 26 years ago, table with food on it, like fresh fruit and stuff, and there's a rack of clothes, all those different stage costumes and other things there, and there's other stuff and personal luggage, and there's no one else there. It's just Ringo, me coming in with my son, 5 years old, and the tour manager or security manager, whoever he was, just the four of us. That was it. Ringo was in the room alone. How this gentleman decided to pick me and my son out sitting at that table in the canteen and determine that we were worthy enough to go down the hall alone with him and just meet Ringo one-on-one with not another bunch of crazies in the room or anything is beyond me. I don't know how it happened. I always go back to the two terms I say is luck and just good fortune. That's all it was, because I was a nobody. So we go in the room, and Ringo is so gracious. He's so friendly. You have these images now of Ringo being the old grouch who won't sign autographs, and don't touch me, don't shake my hand, get away from me, I don't have time. That image of Ringo nowadays. But he was so not like that, folks. I'm being totally honest. He was so, I'm going to use the terms again, sorry, but I always think of gracious and friendly. He started joking with my young son. He asked us our names, and then me and my son share the same first name. So he said, "Well, okay, are you Big Matt or Little Matt? Who's Big Matt? Are you the Big Matt? Oh, he looks like Big Matt. No, I bet you're Big Matt." And he's telling my son, "You're the big guy. You're Big Matt. You're the tough guy." Like that. And my son was all smiling and laughing, and I'm smiling from ear to ear, like, wow, here's Ringo Starr joking with my son, my young 5-year-old son, and me about who's Big Matt and who's Little Matt. "Oh, you got to be Big Matt," he's telling my son. And it's just such a warm, friendly time with him joking with my son, and then asking me about the show. "Are you looking forward to the show?" And then he asked my son. He never ignored my son. He would ask me if I was looking forward to the show, but then he would always acknowledge my son and say, "How about you? You gonna enjoy the show too?" And at one point he asked my son. I told Ringo. I said, "Ringo, I love Time Takes Time." I said, "I think it's one of your finest albums ever. I love it." And he was very appreciative of that. He said, "Oh, thank you very much." I can't do Ringo, but "Thank you very much, much appreciated," and all that. I forget the term he used for it. I couldn't even try to remember for you folks, but he seemed very pleased with this album. He seemed very happy with it, and very pleased that a fan really loved it and considered it one of his best and one of his finest ever. So I think he really appreciated that. But at one point, I told him that my son also liked the album, and he said to my son, well, what's your favorite song on the album? And don't you know it, my son, we were not BS and Ringo. My son had listened to this album. I had been playing it incessantly in the house, and my son's favorite song was Don't Go Where the Road Don't Go. He loved that song, don't go where the road don't go. He just loved that song, and he didn't skip a beat. When Ringo asked him, what's your favorite song on the album? And my son said, Don't Go Where the Road Don't Go. And Ringo started laughing. He got a big kick out of that my son actually knew a song from his new album and loved a song from his new album. And you couldn't make that stuff up. I mean, if I was some, fake fan or something just coming in there just to say I met a Beatle or something, and my son had never really heard of any Ringo, didn't even know who Ringo Starr was, he would have looked at Ringo with some quizzical look on his face like, huh? What song do I like from your album? Yeah. But my son knew the album, he knew the songs, God bless him, 5 years old, and he loved that song, Don't Go Where the Road Don't Go. And Ringo got such a kick out of that my son knew that and loved that song. So anyway, I'll put this down for a minute. I did, at that point, Ringo had a picture there, and he just, I didn't ask him for this. He had a stack of these pictures, and I just want to show it to you. It's like a 5x7 promo picture that he was giving out, and I don't know if you can see it. I can see it pretty clearly here, but right under the orange sticker, I put the sticker there so you can see it. Right under the orange sticker, in gold Sharpie, he wrote Ringo with the star at the end. See, I hope you can see it. See it? Ringo Starr. Okay? There it is. You see it. He just grabbed this picture on his own, folks. I didn't ask him, Ringo, can I have an autograph? He just, almost like it was automatic. Like, this is something I'm going to do for this little boy and his dad. He picked up this 5x7, he took his gold Sharpie, and he said, oh, here you go, here's a picture. I said, oh, thank you so much, Ringo, I appreciate it. And then, again, I'm flabbergasted, so I'm not asking for anything. I'm just happy that I'm there, standing, me, my son, and one other guy, and Ringo. And we're spending time in his dressing room together. And so I wasn't asking for anything. I'm in shock, folks. I'm just like, he's offering me the picture with the autograph, and I'm going, oh, gee, thank you. And the next thing he does is he goes, sorry, I'm like this with my camera, probably shell-shocked, and he goes, how about we take a picture together? Let's take a picture together. So he says, give your camera to the security guard, and he'll take a picture. And so I said, okay. So I gave it to him, and it's got my ticket stub from the show in here. I'll show you that first. There's the ticket stub, June 22nd, 1992. And then here's the picture. Oh boy, I hope you can, there it is. Here's the picture of me, Ringo, and my young son. 5 years old, I'm 30, going on 31, and Ringo was 52 at the time. Because I remember the first song he did coming out of the box was I Am the Greatest. And he said, what's that line about, now I'm only 32 and all I want to do is boogaloo. He sang, now I'm only 52 and all I want to do is boogaloo. As you can see, I'm wearing my Earth Day shirt. I had the Earth Day, there was an Earth Day concert, I think a few weeks earlier, and I think I picked up a couple of trinkets that I gave to Ringo as gifts that day. Ringo's wearing a baseball hat, and if you notice, I'm wearing a baseball hat, and I am wearing, as you can see, there, see that hat I'm wearing? That's an official Ringo Starr 1992 tour hat, and that is the actual hat I'm wearing right now. Yeah, I know, folks, I'm older. I'm an old fart now, I know. 26 years ago, over a quarter century ago, folks. That's me, that's a 30-year-old Matt, okay? You're talking, I'm on the backside of my 50s now. I'm 57, okay? So give me a break, cut me some slack. Anyway, I just want you to be able to see that. So he was nice enough to say to the tour manager, security, whatever, hey, let's take a picture. And sure enough, I love that he's got that classic Ringo look on his face, and instead of doing his usual Ringo peace sign, he's pointing towards my son. And there's my son, who at the time was 5. I wouldn't normally pick him up and carry him around. He was getting pretty big. But at the time I was like, I don't care, I'm picking him up. We're all going to be, he was heavy, but I picked him up. So there you go. Okay. And just as a little surprise, Ringo, after he took that main picture, he said, take another one just to be safe. He said that. He said, let's take another one to be safe. So I have the outtake picture of the same session, so to speak. And you can see Ringo's got a different look on his face. He's not pointing. I'm kind of looking away, still smiling ear to ear. I didn't stop smiling the whole time. And my son's got a little bigger smile on his face. But there we are with Ringo. Look at, there's nobody else around us. We're just alone in his dressing room. And as I said, this is the main one, though, the main nice one I thought that I would have blown up. And I'll show you them together. Okay, so that's it, folks. I know this was a long video. After the pictures were taken, I had the autograph, and of course Ringo, it's before showtime. He has to get ready for the show. So we gave our goodbyes and shook his hand and thanked him very much for his kindness, and he was very gracious in our departure and thanking us and wishing us well, enjoying his show. And that was it. The security guard let us out. Went down the hall, went out to the main area, concert area, took our seats, and unfortunately, I remember thinking slightly when I was sitting there, maybe Ringo will spot us from the stage and acknowledge us or point out my son or something, which, it didn't happen because, when he came out and all the lights are on him and spotlights, and there's, like I said, thousands of people at this show. I think he packed the place again in '92 for this tour. So, I picked up my tour book. I got my tour hat, which you saw from in the picture. Here was the tour book I got. And here's that same picture, as you can see. All right, the one he signed for me. So this is the official tour book. And there was his band that year. Todd Rundgren, Burton Cummings, Timothy B. Schmidt, Nils Lofgren, Dave Edmonds, Joe Walsh, and Tim Capello, I think, was the sax player, and Ringo, and there's Ringo. I know it's a long video, folks, but I just thought you'd really enjoy this and seeing everything, hearing everything. Here's all the guys. All right. There's the band, there's Ringo right in the middle. Ringo had his hair short during this period. He was wearing a very kind of short haircut at the time. There's Zach and Tim. There's the band again. Just a great little tour book. I've had the hat, kept it pristine all these years. Me, I'm a nut with my collectibles, Sometimes I'll wear stuff like my Ninja Beatles t-shirt I'll wear all the time and don't care if it gets ruined. But the hat I kept pristine because I wore it in the picture with him. I did buy a t-shirt at the concert. They were selling a multitude of different styles. I bought one. It was a white t-shirt with the Time Takes Time big full cover like this on the shirt. This was the front of the t-shirt in a white t-shirt. And I loved it so much I wore that thing out, folks. I just wore the heck out of it. You're talking 26 years ago, it's long gone. So I don't have my t-shirt anymore. No more Time Takes Time t-shirt. But anyway, that's it, folks. I thought I'd share a really special story with you. I met a Beatle. I met Ringo Starr. He was so nice to me and my son. My son's now 32 years old. He has a child of his own now, 3, my first grandson, and he has another child on the way with my daughter-in-law, due by the end of the summer. So isn't it funny how time goes by, and there you go. Little 5-year-old boy who met Ringo 26 years ago is now a father himself. And that young man in there in the middle is a grandfather. So all the best, folks. Thanks so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed my special story. If you have any further questions, if you think I missed something that I should be telling you, please just ask me in the comments. I'll be happy to do my best to answer your questions about Ringo. But I'm just so happy I met him. And don't be surprised, folks. I have other stories up my sleeve. God bless.